if a kid is a 12-year-old kid and they're winning at a regional level, for them to get better, they need to grade themselves by what a national junior is doing. Are you getting as much rest as a national junior? Is your practice as organized as a national junior? Are you spending as much time pitching and chipping and wedging it as a national junior? And then if you're a national junior, like you're a really good player and you're 2 years away from college, well, you don't need to sit around and compare yourself to what you're doing right now. You need to go kind of get with some college kids and go like, whoa, that guy outweighs me by 30 pounds. I might need to start eating more protein and lifting weights. Their wedge games are better than my wedge game. And then if you're a college player, the same's true. You go play with professionals.
Welcome to The Golf Parent, where you get access to the best minds in junior golf.
VJ, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Good to be here.
So, I think where I want to start the conversation is off air. We were talking a little bit about the difference between what a golf instructor is and what a golf coach or a golf teacher and a golf coach. I've never heard that before, and I've never seen or heard that distinction. Can you tell the audience and the viewers what is the difference between a golf coach and a golf teacher?
Well, like my opinion, right?
Sure. Yeah.
My opinion. A teacher, when I started teaching the game 20-something years ago, it was a lot like being a professor to a large part, right? So essentially somebody walked in, you explained information to them. There was a transfer of information, typically around the world of technique, right? And then that person walked out the door and they were out to get better, away from you individually. And then, as things have multiplied, so when you start working with better players, more elite players, as you start seeing some of the kids, the youngsters you used to work with playing the PGA Tour, it starts to work more into a coaching world. And what a coaching world is they're still the teacher, right? You still play professor to a large part, so you still gather data on their golf swing, gather information on their ball flight, et cetera, on how their body's moving. But then you also go out there with them and you go through the process with them. So that might be the process on the golf course. That might be the process in practice. But it's less of a professor, and it's more like an internship, right? And so when you're being taught something, it's classroom-ish. A golf teacher, you draw a line, you analyze the golf swing, you show them what's right, you show them what's wrong, you show them different ways to do it. So that would be more of the professor kind of mentality. A golf coach would be much more in the world of an internship where you do go in and there is some things that you learn as far as transfers of information, but then you'd also hop in the truck or hop in the car with the sales force. You'd also go down and hang out with the marketing team. So in other words, you'd get on the golf course and you would learn how to take it around the golf course, where this miss came from, where that miss came from. Just more of a global type thought. So that would be my basic idea. You have golf teachers out there and you have golf coaches out there.
So in the world of junior golf, or in the context of junior golf, would it be fair to say that there's almost a time and a place? Like you would start as you're learning the game to work with a golf teacher or an instructor. And then as you get more and more proficient with understanding the fundamentals and the techniques, now you need that coach that, as you mentioned, takes you out on the course, starts walking through strategy and all the kind of infinite variables that actually golf throws at you.
Yeah, you certainly could say that. And you could also say that it could work the inverse as well. So you could have a dad or grandfather that or a grandmother or a mother that plays the game, and that you would go out there and you would play with. It'd be no golf instruction whatsoever. You would just learn, like, okay, this is how you get out of a bunker. This tall grass affects this. You just play golf with them, and you'd learn to play the game almost with a coach out there, so to speak, like your mentor. Would teach you how to play the game. And then if you enjoy the game a lot, you'd start getting instruction. And so like typically what I've seen, my evidence, when I say typically, my evidence of what I see is the players the youngsters that play the game first and then roll into instruction do better than the youngsters that get a lot of instruction first and then roll into playing the game.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, the game itself is it. I don't know who invented it, but they invented it with one person out there swinging the club. And, and so if you just kind of break it down into the game of golf, well, it wasn't out there with a teacher, wasn't out there with a coach. It was just a person out there, maybe with a caddy, maybe not with a caddy. Caddies came later. Golf carts certainly did. And they were out there with a certain number of clubs, and they were out there banging the ball around. And it's like, what? Okay, I get that, but like, there's wind, and then there's sand, and then there's deep grass, and then there's short grass, and then there's all these different topographies, like this and this and this, and then there's people that watch you, and sometimes there's not people that watch you, and then there's a lot of elements to the game. Just when you start thinking about the information that each shot gives you, there's a lot of elements to that, right? And then targets, right? So finding good targets, I don't think you can learn that in a bay. You have to kind of learn that, and then it's like, okay, well then, like, trusting my swing, or having the ability to focus on executing the shot. Like, those are all, parts of the game that are certainly up to individual development, right? You have mentors or coaches, or the game itself will teach you that, right? If you play it enough, the game will teach you. So I think when you take a person that has some of those, if you want to call them fundamentals of playing, that have those fundamentals of playing, and then they start taking golf lessons, they're like, that's the reason why right? Whereas when a person doesn't have those fundamentals, then they're like, well, like, what does it matter if I draw it? What does it matter if I cut it? Like, what is he talking about? Inside out, outside in? What is it? Right? So the things don't sit on top of the other things. And the evidence I have suggests that if you have a really nice layer of playing golf out there, then when the instruction begins, it really fertilizes that soil. But I haven't seen it work the other way a lot, right? Now I have evidence of junior golf programs that get kids together, and the kids are having fun playing golf, and they're enjoying it, and they're running around, they're hop, skipping, and jumping, swinging, learning things, and then they start to kind of pod off. They start to chip together and putt together, and then they go to the par 3 together, then they play together. Like, I've seen junior golf kind of blossom kids into playing together as little pods, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And that really grow the game for them. But I haven't seen like true, like, I don't know anything about the game much, and not really, and I don't play it. I don't have a lot of proximity to the golf course. And then instruction really turned the corner on that athlete.
That makes sense. Now, you're uniquely positioned here because you've worked with and developed not only, juniors to the elite level juniors, but then also into the tour as well. So much so that you've written a book kind of laying it out. And I'd like to just kind of maybe circle on the book for a second, because the book is Only One Shot, Creating a Discipline, Defined, and Loving Environment for Junior Golfers. So it really is a roadmap of how to develop a junior golfer.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the book. Why did you write it? And the title it's ominous almost, but it's also impactful. You really do only have one shot to get this right. Tell me a little bit about, as a parent. Yeah, exactly.
With I have two boys, one 22 that plays college golf and one 20 that plays college golf. They both play college golf. And I was fortunate enough to start to see how when you turn on scoreboards, parents change. So as a coach, like, you're behind the scenes when the scoreboard's not on. And, you're talking about speed putting, and you're talking about chipping, and you're talking about pitching, and you're talking about lines, and you're walking through practice rounds with them. And so when I started seeing, personally as a parent, I started seeing parents kind of walking around a golf course, watching 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds play golf with nobody clapping, right? It's almost like you're watching a funeral procession. I was like, what? We're missing a point here, right? It's like the parents should be an extension of the stimulus that encourages the players, that we should be almost fans of this thing, right? We should be out here clapping, making some noise when they make a long putt, when they have a 2-putt from 60 feet, et cetera, et cetera. And I began to do it so much that I was like, I really need to write this. I really need to write this book. I really need to kind of lay this thing out there. And at the time I was working with a guy named Jim Gallagher Jr. He was sort of shifting he was a really, really strong player, Ryder Cup player, in the early 90s. And he was kind of shifting through into his 50s, playing his last part of the Web Tour and then getting on the Champions Tour. And he had just a normal story. And it was a very normal story. He had a parent that was a PGA professional. He grew up out there watching his dad, watching other players. He got very good at golf, went to Tennessee, was okay, turned pro, was okay, then got really good, won 5 times, got rich, started building a family, developing family, and his game started going away. And then it was like, well, that's the whole story, right? And now it's an extremely great story, but it's the whole story of like, okay, well, golf is going to, it's going to be a gift that's given to you by God. You're going to manifest a lot of energy into it. If you meet the right people and it's God's will for your life, well, then now it's, you're going to kind of spring up out of that. Maybe ultimately creating your own goals, right? Like achieving these amazing things, but it's going to go away. It's going to go away. And it's just like golf. It's like, kids that, there are kids that win golf tournaments that are great players at 10, 11, 12, and man, they grow and they struggle, right? And sometimes the parents don't understand that. Sometimes there's a 14 or 15 or 16-year-old kid that's a world beater, and then something starts to shift, and they start putting internal pressure on themselves and starts going away. So golf is going to be one of those games that's always going to be a difficult game. And the older the kid gets, the more the parent needs to give it to the kid. So only one shot is really all about, hey, let's look at this let's look at it from data. Let's use evidence-based support here, right? So, your kid loves golf. Great. That's awesome. Let's play a lot of sports. Let's do a lot of things. Let's keep that kid moving in multiple different directions. Let's give the kid proximity to the golf course. Let's go out there and play golf with them. Let's hang out with them. Let's learn what we can learn on the golf course. Okay, now what are some things I need to look for as far as a coach? Well, we need to start looking in these directions. Like, does the coach fit the bill of somebody that's going to be able to care and spend time with your young athlete? So that's where it came from. It came from me not wanting to selfishly know and not share it with other people.
I gotcha. And it's awesome that you wrote it because, having some sort of roadmap or some sort of, you talk about a well-defined path to follow in the book. Yeah. And I think that is what people don't have, and they're struggling. And when you add into the fact from a parent's point of view that you do really only have one shot at this to best support your child's journey, it makes it important to have the right information, the knowledge out there. And there's a lot of conflicting stuff out there. So let's maybe just talk about that path. What would you say in a very kind of, let's just say, stripped down or dumbed down version of the path? How do you see the typical path of developing a junior into like an elite and then to get potentially to play college golf or beyond? Like, what does that path look like?
Access, but we're going to think from almost like a postmodern view, right? So we're just taking this, we're taking into consideration that the athlete themselves has been given that gift and that love for the game.
Yes.
Right. That's where we're coming from.
Yeah. 100%.
So from that perspective, access to the golf course, proximity to the golf course, from there, access and proximity to playing the golf course. From there, don't allow the kid to specialize at golf. Even if they love golf and hate baseball, let's go play baseball. I kind of like soccer. Okay, let's play soccer. Keep the kid diversified so that they don't put all their intentions in that. It's going to help them. It's going to help them as their body develops, as far as the dysfunctions that set in as kids start growing through different stages of life, like in growth velocities. The next thing is start introducing some type of focus control. So focus control would be a very simple routine, right? So Hey, take in some information. Okay, got it. Where's your target? Okay, cool. Now, when we pull that club out, stand behind it, hold the club up like this, take 2 looks and hit it. When you putt, take 1 look for alignment, 1 look, confirm it, and hit the putt. So some basic form of focus control so that the kids begin to understand that they aren't in control of the outcome, but they are in control of their process for it. Then from there, start layering those 2 processes. So you have an athlete now, and you have some focus, and start layering now. So from the focus perspective, start layering it on, the coach giving them usable plans, good practice rounds as far as how to run a solid practice rounds. When I say plans and usable plans, I mean usable plans of practice, right? So including putting, chipping, pitching, wedge play. So something organized, really basic technique goals, right? So in other words, you got a lesson and your left-hand grip needs to improve some. So your coach wants you to do that 10 or 15 times a night. And then when that is better, once you do that for 25 or 30 days and it's better, we're going to take you back. So teach the youngster how to take that focus and start to provide it into changes. And at the other side of the coin, athletically, just start layering the athletics, right? Get them to move better, rotate better, stretching, nutrition. And what you'll end up with is a kid that has a relatively good idea on how to keep their body healthy, and they'll have a relatively good idea on how to develop themselves individually. And then once you have a healthy person that knows how to develop themselves, then you're really starting to cook with some dough.
Cook with some, I love that. You talked about, I'd be remiss if I didn't, you mentioned usable plans and how to formulate a good practice round. For those that don't know, what goes into formulating a good practice round? And I assume that means that when you're playing the course for the first time before maybe a tournament or a practice, what do you mean by that? And how would you create a good practice round?
There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of ways to create it. Let's just start with basics. So, using a scorecard, right? So like you don't have to have a yardage book, using a scorecard when they're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. On the scorecard, like number 1, it's like, what are we hitting here? And it's like, well, hitting driver. It's like, okay, well, where are we hitting? Down the middle. So write down DDM, driver down the middle. So second hole, it's like, it's a par 3. It's like, okay, how far is this? 160 yards. What are we hitting? We're hitting 3 wood. It's like, okay, cool, 3 wood. And then, just a simple way of like when they walk out to the golf course the next day, they already know they're hitting driver down the middle. They're hitting 3 wood here. They're hitting a 3 wood here. Driver down the middle, driver down the left, DDL, driver down the right, DDR. And then the next layer would be obviously to start to taking the information around the greens. So, like number 2 here is long's tough, short's good. So, write that down on the scorecard, right? Number 2, 3 wood, long is tough, right? And then from there, start to kind of capitalize on speed on the greens, which is such a big deal, right? So, get them, instead of them playing their own ball out, which a lot of kids do in practice rounds, get them to hit enough putts on the golf course during the practice round where they have the speed of the greens already by the time they walk off. And then from there, practice rounds just, they just blow up, right? I mean, then it just keeps growing and growing and growing where you start to understand winds, you start to understand lots of things. And, a really nice place to go, it's high level, but a parent can definitely take it and bring it back down. If the parent is mature about it and understand that it's going to be a very high level approach, is Decade by Scott Fawcett. He does a great job, right? I mean, anybody can join Decade. And they can look at Decade, they can understand, what a PGA Tour player does when they're scoring a golf course, and then you can start to develop that.
How would that change for, let's say, more of an elite level junior, maybe 14 to 16, when it comes to planning out the practice?
Yeah. Yeah, so yardage books, and then detailed notes as far as like where you're hitting the golf ball. So, driver at the tower, driver at the pines on the left. And then when you get on the greens, as far as like you would literally have where you're playing your ball drawn on the green, and greens that had a bunch of trouble down the right. Well, then you would shave off, 7 or 8 or 10 yards of that green in the book, so that when that kid gets to that hole, that athlete can just pull that out and go, okay, cool. This is driver. Yesterday it was driver at that pine up there. Okay, cool. Yeah, wind's off the right. I'm gonna move it a yard or two. Okay, send. Right, and then they get over that book and the pin's back right, and they go, oh man, the green's shaved off. Like there's no chance. I got 149 hole. I'm not playing anywhere near 149 hole. I'm playing this ball 143, 6 left of it, and that's where I'm hitting this golf ball. So it just keeps growing.
And I guess on a mental or like a psychological point of view, that gives you a certain amount of comfort where you're not wasting that mental energy trying to figure it all out. It's already kind of figured out, so that you can go into it allowing you to be more confident and committed with what your shot's going to be, what the club's going to be, because you've already done the work beforehand.
Yeah, it certainly can. And the thing is like I have two boys, and they're, as people that have multiple children, they're always much different, right? And so, you might have one kid that is a little neurotic, right? Is a little anxious, and they might love practice rounds, right? They might be so into, Dad, it's right there off the tree. It's right there. That's where I'm hitting it. Yeah. You might have another kid that has no neuroticism, zero anxiety, right? They think that they think it's like, I'm hitting it great and I'm going to hit it great. It does not matter what you write in that book, right? So from a parenting's perspective, like what you said is so true if you have the right kid. But if you have a kid that's like, man, I got this, don't get off me. Well, that kid might not really like that type of that practice round, but he will. Because, it comes to a point where if you take somebody like Rory McIlroy that's so gifted, or Bryson DeChambeau that's so gifted, and then you go take the number 94th ranked FedEx Cup player on the PGA Tour in any given year, well, that player is just simply not as gifted as one of those top fives. That player cannot give them the opportunity to have better strategy around the golf course. That player has to have great strategy. So what you're doing as a parent for a youngster is, no matter their personality, you're starting to try to lay these seeds so that when they're ready for them to grow, they happen.
Speaking of parenting here on the golf course, what have you seen then on the junior level what do parents do well? Like those parents that are getting it, they get it. They get how to support their kid. They get what goes into it, what it takes. And let's juxtapose those to the parents that are just like, wow, you really just don't get it. You're actually having a downstream negative effect of, helping to guide this child. What's the differences that you're seeing?
The truth. So, parents that do a good job, they will be honest with their kid. Just honest, not emotionally out of control, just honest. It's like, the driver wasn't very good today. And the guy you were playing with, was hitting it hard. He was a really good player. And he already hit it 20 or 30 past you. It looked like to me that, you were really coming out of your shoes trying to send it. Right. Or, like your speed on the greens wasn't great today. Right. I'm sure you noticed that too. We might need to hit some more speed putts. When I say we, you're hitting them, but I'm going to go out there with you. Right.
Yeah.
So I think honesty, I see parents that do a good job, stay honest. And then I think parents that don't do a good job is when the parent's dishonest with the junior, maybe very emotional with them. It's like the shots you hit on number 7 today was absolutely awful. I mean, that was the dumbest play I've ever seen. Well, that's not a very honest remark. That's not the dumbest thing you've ever seen, right? I mean, yeah, he shouldn't have gone for that back left flag, but if you could be honest and reframe that and say, in the yardage book, we had that whole backside of that green like shaved off. I mean, you've got to play that ball out to the right, right? Just be honest with the kids. Or if a kid hits a ball straight right and there's a bunch of golf course left, just be honest with them after the round. Say, kiddo, you got 250 yards to your left, right? So, I mean, let's look over there. But being dishonest would be more emotional and being like, that shot, I mean, you blocked that ball way over the tree. What are you trying, So I think the key to being a good parent out there on the golf course is just trying to stay as honest as you can be. And try not to make these big, crazy, dishonest, emotional charged statements. Right.
When's the right time to do that? To give that feedback?
After the limbic system calms down. So, probably an hour, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, probably isn't enough. Probably a good solid hour, and after a little food after a round. So, once the child or junior golfer, once their limbic system is calmed and they're feeling like, okay, cool, I'm kind of back to normal, then you can go to them. You'd never want to go to it when the limbic system's fired up.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, VJ, let's do a thought experiment here. Yeah. If I was to give you 100 junior golfers, boys and girls, and let's just maybe break them into 2 or 3 different categories of age groups. Let's just say maybe 6 to 10 or 6 to 8, 8 to 12, and then 12 to 16. And I'm going to give you an entire summer looking at these kids, working with these kids. At the end of the summer, if I was to say, okay, Vegas, let's make a bet. Which of these kids would you select that would have the best chance to make it either to the next level collegiate-wise or to the pros? What would be the 3 or 4 or 2 to 3 different things that you're looking at to make that decision? Like, how would you know what you're looking for to kind of make that assessment of who's got the best chance?
All. So I would be looking for the ones that when somebody hit a great shot, we're like, wow, that's cool. Or made a long putt, it was like, wow, that's cool. Or somebody that was looking around, like if you had an elite player around that was looking at a great player hitting the golf ball, and they're like, you could tell that they were kind of inspired by it. I would certainly be looking for that. Gratitude. Not gratitude, not like selfish gratitude. I'm so happy I'm getting this chance, but more the gratitude of like, this is kind of fun. It's kind of a cool place. It's got ice cream. I mean, like that pond on 3, I can't quite get over it yet. And neither could you, but let's go try again. Like, somebody that's kind of like, they're sort of grateful for the situation they're in. And then physical coordination. The kids that you can tell they've moved and they've done things and they know how to apply force to the ground and to their hands. So that would be the 3. If you give me a kid that gets fired up watching people do stuff, that's really kind of grateful for all these like cool things that are around them and the people that are around them that can physically move, you got something. So I guess the antithesis of that would be somebody that was completely always comparing themselves to everybody else, right? That like nothing all them. I don't need to see anybody do anything cool because I'm the center of the world. Somebody that was never happy. Like I got paired with him today and it wasn't good. The coach didn't do his job today. It was hot today. It was, and then a kid that hadn't moved around and put force into stuff, right? So I guess you'd say I would probably be weeding out the selfish, ungrateful kids that couldn't create force and speed. And you can learn all 3 of those, right? But it's that appreciation for cool things and that appreciation for opportunities to do cool things, that's important. That's important.
I think it's pretty straightforward when you say speed, like just, how fast can you swing the golf club? What do you mean by force?
Well, force is just going to originate speed, right? So, like if you have you can see somebody running down the road, and when they're running, you can see if they're coordinated athletes running, right? And then you can see somebody else running down the road and they're not, right? So, what I mean by force is like, do they innately kind of understand how to create coordinated motion and then add speed to it, right? You can see it putting easy, right? You can see it in putting. Like you can see, kids that kind of get in there and they get locked in and their eyes are sort of telling them where the line is and they turn her back, turn her through, and dump it. And then you can see other kids that, just don't quite get it, right? They're kind of getting handsy and wristy. So that's what I really mean by that. Not so much speed production, but coordinated motion that can produce force that then results in some form of speed.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, because that makes sense. A couple of these points we talked about would be in the mental category. Like having gratitude is certainly an emotional kind of mental choice of how to look at things, comparing yourself, falling into the comparison trap, all the rest of that. When you look back on your career and you've looked back on some of the best of the best that you've worked with, what else is different about the way that they're wired? Either something that is either inherent or something that they've worked on, where they're just like kind of that winning's mentality or that winner's mentality. What is that, and what do they have that makes them elite?
They can immerse themselves in shots. That's what elite players can do. Is elite players can immerse themselves in the process of maybe moving better, of maybe changing their technique, of maybe hitting the shot, of they simply have the ability to immerse themselves in the moment in the shot. It's almost like elite players are more playful, almost, just like they immerse themselves so deeply. It's like watching a 7-year-old put Legos together that really likes Legos. They're just immersed in it, right? And I think that's the biggest difference. So from a mental standpoint, it's I'm a firm believer that we kind of are what we are from our state of mind, and our state of mind starts to really rev that engine up, right? I mean, I've seen it too many times. I mean, the most astounding thing of it is, I guess the time that comes to my mind the most is when you have a handful of times in a coach's life, like a player's good and the player knows the player's good, but nobody else know the player good, and the player shows up on a big stage and they make a huge splash. Like that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like nobody has a clue except like y'all know, right? It's kind of the Rocky kind of concept, right? Rocky immersed himself, and it's that kind of deal. And those players, after they make those big splashes, those players have a tendency, so long as everybody around them stays the same, is they keep that mentality going, and that really drives them, because it's a lot harder to be great once everybody expects you to be great, right? If you're a person that's I'm not going to say weak-minded, but if you're a person that is doing it for outside results, once you become really good, you're going to try to protect that. But if you're doing it for that inner drive, that playful immersing yourself into learning these new shots, learning this new situation. It's like, cool, I've never been the guy that everybody looked at, or I've never been the gal that everybody looked at. Now I am. So like, let me immerse myself in that, figure out how to handle that. Right. So it was like, okay, well, like, even though I have to do this and this and this, like, I'm still the same guy. I'm still going to play golf the same way. I'm still the same gal. I'm still play golf the same way. Like that ability to immerse yourself keeps going upstream. Like take a guy like Scotty Scheffler right now. or I mean, just like he has to have a very strong ability just to immerse himself in getting back out there, hitting quality golf shots, enjoying what he does with Randy, and and keeping it rolling, right? So I would definitely say, I'm sorry, it's a long answer, but I would definitely say the ability to immerse yourself and like diligently work hard, but in a playful way to accomplish these little cool things that you want to accomplish.
It's not a long answer. It was a profound answer, because I think that ability to, I love that playful immersion where you're immersing yourself in it, in all aspects of it. I love the analogy of a 7-year-old playing Lego, where they're just like, they're so focused into it. It makes sense. I mean, just as a side note, I've had some Lego sets that I've had for about 30 years, since I was like 10. And
right.
My 2-year-old son now is playing with those Lego sets, and nothing is making me happier. I mean, he's losing pieces. He's all of it. And I'm just the happiest guy in the world to be like, first of all, the fact that he's into the Lego, and second of all, that he can play with more advanced Lego and not just the big blocks. Yeah, I couldn't be happier. But...
And, if you take your kid, I'm gonna go a different way. I'm kind of going back to Only One Shot, but one of the chapters in Only One Shot, we talk about, if you have kids that are video game loving, social media, telephone, streaming, vacation, like that's all they know for 7 or 8 years, right? They haven't been working on the Legos. And then all of a sudden you give them Legos. They're like, I don't want to do that. Like this other stuff's way easier. So that, I mean,
way
that's
more
part
dopamine.
Of the,
that's way more fun.
That's part of that whole Only One Shot thing is like you can't put your, I'm going to say you can't. This is the evidence I have, is you can't just take your beautiful gift from God and just go to Disney World with them for 4 years, 7 years, 8 years, right? You have to kind of go, okay, like this is a huge gift from God, but it's like, I also need to like throw the Legos out there and let them play with them as kids, right? I mean, you get the point, I think.
I get the point, and it's one of the things that I am most proud of as a parent right now is that my baby boy Chase, who's 27 months, he's never seen a cartoon. He's never seen a TV show, never watched, and that's hard as a working parent to do that. And there's certainly no judgment here, because trust me, it's hard. But it is one of the things that we're trying, my wife and I, very hard to do, is just be like, screen time's going to come. It's going to come. And all of us parents out there know Fortnite's coming,
yes,
social media, it's coming.
Yeah.
Push those walls out for as long as possible, because exactly to your point, if it's too early, how could you develop the grit and the perseverance and that focus mind that you were talking about when there's no dopamine? Like there's no, like, why would you eat broccoli when you're eating Doritos, and that, like, that the hit to your taste buds is so much more. It's hard to go back to broccoli.
That's right. That's one of the things that, wealth, and, a lot of us, when I say the term wealth, I don't mean private jets and mansions on South Beach. I'm just talking about just wealth, right? We have homes, we have cars, we have access, we can take vacation stuff. I think when the wealthier a country becomes, and a wealthier a subdivision of a country becomes, the more we have to kind of actively think of this, right? Because it's not even a conversation. If I can't afford an iPhone, it's not even a conversation. If I can't afford a vacation, it's not even a conversation, right? But we don't even have to have that talk. It's just like, hey, you can play with Legos or you can not, right? You could sit there on the couch and stare out the window. So I agree with the evidence I have supports everything you're saying. It's not easy. But
no,
the richer that environment is, the better they'll be.
And at the end of the day, as parents, we're all just trying to set up our kids for maximum success in the best way that we know how, with the evidence that we have. We're all just trying to do the best we can. I'm going to be respectful of your time here, and I know I got to let you go here, but I've got one more thing. Off air, we were talking about almost working back, seeing it through their eyes. If you want to be an elite level junior, kind of putting yourself, seeing it through their eyes of what it takes to be that. If you want to be an elite collegiate player, what does it take? Seeing it through their eyes. Can you just tell the audience a little bit about your philosophy with that and what that actually means?
Sure. Yeah. So there was a time, I'll backtrack a little bit. There was a time when I taught everybody, just taught this, like, 1 hour golf lessons. And there was a kid named Matt Fast, and a kid named Jonathan Randolph, and a kid named Allie McDonald, and a kid named Chad Ramey, and a kid named Carlos. Anyway, like these kids were like, they were really good. So it's like, what I would do is I would say, well, I'm going to go, I'm going to block off 3 hours after, Matt when he was 10. And I'm going to go on the golf course with him. And so when we get on the golf course with him, it's like, whoa, like Matt gets to see it through my eyes. Right. So it's like, hey, this guy's a good club pro player, played Division I golf. So now you got this little 10-year-old, and you start to kind of view it. He's like, holy Toledo, like the wedge shot I was hitting really isn't that good a wedge shot, because like his wedge shot was better than my wedge shot. And so then my whole planet changed through teaching some of these elite players. And now I don't teach as many players. Like I'll teach anybody, but like if I coach you and teach you, then I'm going to get on the golf course with you, and I'm going to give you private lessons, and like you're going to know how to play golf in practice, and I'm going to put you in groups with people that are better than you and worse than you. So the reason you and I are saying that is because if a kid is a 12-year-old kid and they're winning at a regional level, for them to get better, they need to grade themselves by what a national junior is doing. So are you getting as much rest as a national junior? Is your practice as organized as a national junior? Are you spending as much time pitching and chipping and wedging it as a national junior? And then if you're a national junior, like you're a really good player and you're 2 years away from college, you've already kind of put in your letter of intent, right? You haven't signed yet, but you're certainly already going to this university. Well, you don't need to sit around and compare yourself to what you're doing right now. You need to go kind of get with some college kids and go like, whoa, that guy outweighs me by 30 pounds. I might need to start eating more protein and lifting weights. Their wedge games are better than my wedge game. Right. They run a good, solid product. They never really get high or low. And then if you're a college player, the same's true. You go play with professionals, right? Because the blessing that we've had here is the tour players that came up through the junior ranks, they practice next to the junior golfers. So like the kid understands, it's like, I'm glad you can hit a 3-wood in the air. That's great. Now watch him hit the 3-wood in the air. It's like, whoa. It's like, yeah, okay. It's like, good job coming out and practicing, hitting some balls, but like, watch her practice. Sticks down, trackmans up, distance control wedges, right? So I think it's real important that junior golfers, certainly once they get to a level that they can have a team around, and it's like, okay, cool, you're at that level, you're rocking that level. Now that as a team member, let me help put you in a situation with better players. And then those better players now start looking at it through their eyes. Right.
Love that. Look at it through their eyes. VJ, so much value here for the listeners and the viewers. If somebody wants to get into your ecosystem, if somebody wants to follow you, work with you, read your books, what's the best way for them to kind of get into contact or to kind of get to know you a little bit more?
Yeah, you can always order the book, Only One Shot. It's on Amazon. There'll be a second edition coming out. Instagram, VJ Trolio. I don't post a whole lot on Twitter. And, just get out there. I guess if somebody's trying to really kind of get to know where I am, the best place to do it is kind of look at social media, look at books, but then also like get the information, get the books, look around you and see if it holds water. And if it holds water, then go try to find the other top 100 instructors and other people that are really dedicating this game. Get involved with the USGA. The USGA has these really cool programs they're rolling out with state team developments and regional team developments, national team developments. get involved in things, start becoming a student of, understand Junior Golf Scoreboard, right? Go on Junior Golf Scoreboard, understand it, right? So get it, understand the system of ranking, go to HAGA and begin to understand the system of ranking. So, people are welcome to follow everything that I'm doing, but I really don't want a ton of followers. I just want to lay down some breadcrumbs so that people can kind of get out there and go, okay, cool, this does hold a little water. Let's go look into this. Let's go look into that. Let's go look into this. Because ultimately, I think that all of us that are in the right place in their life, the kids are the heroes, right? They're the next generation. They're the heroes. We're just the guides. And so, that's what it's about, right? It's about all of us kind of collectively telling the truth, getting together, and it being a better guide, sharing information back and forth, and being a better guide for this next generation.
Well said, VJ. Any last advice to the parents out there, assuming that they have a kid that's shown the aptitude, shown the focus, and the love for the game? What can a parent do to best set up their child for success?
Pray and proximity. Pray and proximity. Proximity. So, we live 3 miles from 2 world-class golf courses. The kids were out here whenever they wanted to be, so, proximity. And I know that's tough for, people that live in Chicago, downtown. They have these really cool kids, and, they're like, man, my kid loves golf. And I know it's a big ask, but you might have to move north, you might have to get out of the city. So pray and proximity.
Love that. VJ, thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to be on here.